Idolatry seems like an antiquated issue. If it feels good, do it. If you have an itch, scratch it. If you have an appetite, feed it. If you have a passion, fulfill it. What gods do you worship in hopes of satisfying your physical desires?
I was coming up against something I could not manipulate, and I could not do anything about it.
I started to feel this desperation. I really felt like a mistake.
But I knew how to feel good, and so I would eat.
It's not a question of if you are a follower. It's really a question of who or what you are following. We are all followers of someone or something. But what keeps us oftentimes from truly following Jesus is that our heart is pursuing something or someone else.
It seemed the most logical thing was to try to become as successful as possible in the business world.
I always had this incredible desire to prove myself Chuck Colson, White House hatchet man.
I needed to fill this desire to be acceptable, to be loved.
I was willing to pay any price. It was my identity.
I kind of loved politics. It's the ultimate power game, ultimate power trip.
I'm living this life, going to prayer meetings with the men of the church, and in the meantime, we'd brought a computer into our house and I'd discovered internet porn.
Call it addiction, call it sexualizing my needs. They were idols.
In my life, I've had 7 friends who've committed suicide. 7 personal acquaintances, all men, and they all have one common denominator. They had failed in the area of their finances.
Food had literally become the counterfeit lover.
You see, your God is determined by what you put your trust in. And when the economy collapsed, for many, God died.
My gods were get ahead, get power. That's what I was worshiping. That was my God. That was my God.
The idols, they never satisfied. They never satisfied.
Hey, I am Pastor Kyle Idleman, and if I can, I would love to just talk to you for a moment. What do you worry about? What scares you? What are you the most terrified of losing? Maybe you fear not reaching a certain level of success, and people not liking you. Maybe it's being alone. These things have the potential to become our idols because in them we find our meaning, our significance, sometimes our very identity. Where do you go when you're hurt and you need comfort? Theologian Henry Blackaby defines an idol as anything you turn to for help instead of first turning to God. It might be food, it might be sex, it might be a relationship, but where we go for comfort often reveals what God is winning the war. One of the things I have learned over the last number of months is I've asked the question, are you a fan or a follower in thousands of churches across the country? One of the things I've learned is that it's not a question of if you are a follower. It's really a question of who or what you are following. We are all followers of someone or something, but what keeps us oftentimes from truly following Jesus is that our heart is pursuing something or someone else. Now, idolatry seems like an antiquated issue, but idolatry is the most discussed problem in Scripture. There's more than 1,000 verses that speak to it. The first 2 of the 10 commandments deal with it. And what I'm just discovering is that what keeps us from truly following Jesus is this false God that is winning the war for the throne of our heart. The truth is that every sin that the people in your church are struggling with, every discouragement that they're dealing with, comes down to a false God that is winning the war in their lives. It comes down to an issue of idolatry. And until that God is dethroned and God takes His rightful place on the throne of our hearts, we can't be true followers of Jesus.